Right, well, welcome back to my Premier League predictions. This is going to be a different video as I'm currently going through a bit of tonsillitis at the moment. I think I'm on the tail end, but I'm still not fully cleared up yet. So if my voice sounds any different from speaking a bit different in this video, that is why. It's not easy to speak at the moment, so while it won't be much different for you, I'm going to take my time with this video. But yeah, with that spiel out the way, let's just jump into our Premier League predictions. I'm going to start off with the Saturday fixtures and Crystal Palace versus Burnley. Crystal Palace host Burnley at Selhurst Park, as both sides are desperately looking to get points on the board to move away from the dreaded drop zone. This is a Crystal Palace that will be under new manager Oliver Glasner, and will hope that they can utilise that fabled new manager bounce to retain their Premier League status. The Eagles are coming off the back of a draw against fellow strugglers Everton, that vital point putting them 5 points above the drop zone. Burnley are coming off the back of a domination by Arsenal in their own backyard, as their survival hopes took another blow. Palace scraped a draw against Everton, which sees their form become one draw and a win from their last 5, whereas Burnley's loss takes their form to 2 wins and a draw from their last 5. Not great if you're trying to survive relegation. I'm going to say 1-0 to Palace. I am backing the Eagles to start well under Glasner. He's not coming at the best of times, with big players like Eze and Elise missing out through injury. That will make his job a lot harder, but I am still backing Palace to claim a very important 3 points. This is a prime opportunity for Burnley to try and get something, but I've not really seen anything from the Clarets that would lead me to believe that they can capitalise on the Eagles' absentees, and obviously the new manager coming in. Palace have shown that they can score goals without their main attackers. However, they've only scored 28 goals so far this season, and that was with them in the team for bits of it. So that's why I can't see this match being a high-scoring affair at all. Burnley aren't really known as an attacking force either. I do think Palace are the most likely of the two teams to score though, as this is helped by Burnley's defensive record, as they've conceded 55 goals so far this season, which is the second worst record in the league. It's going to be very interesting to see how Glasner sets up Palace for his first game in charge, but if he can replicate anything he did at Frankfurt, it could be a huge appointment for Palace. He was in the running for the Forest job before we picked Nuno, and personally I wouldn't have minded him, so I'm thinking he's going to do good things at Palace. Perhaps, has he been given enough time? I think so. Just got to wait for like the likes of Eze and Elise to come back into the fold, but I think he'll be alright, and I think he'll get a win on his debut. Okay, and then we move on to Aston Villa versus Nottingham Forest. The Villains host Nottingham Forest at Villa Park as they look to further cement their position in the top 4 and maybe reignite their title challenge. They host a Nottingham Forest side that finally grabbed their first 3 points of 2024 as they soundly defeated West Ham last week. That important win for Forest takes their form to 1 win and a draw from their last 5, which gives them a 4-point gap from the relegation zone. Villa also coming off a win as they beat Fulham in the capital, which was a very important result for Villa's European hopes. Villa have been enjoying some more success, I think it's fair to say, as their win takes their form to 2 wins and a draw from the last 5, but have not won at home in their last 3 attempts in all competitions. So maybe a little something in there. Despite that though, I'm going to say 2-1 to Aston Villa. I reckon Villa will claim all 3 points at Villa Park. Aston Villa will be looking to return to that home winning form that had helped them so much earlier in the season, and look to make Villa Park a fortress once again. Forest haven't been great on the road this season, much like last season. We've only won 1 game on the road, so it's really not looking great, and I don't see that changing in Birmingham. The last time these two sides faced each other, Forest surprisingly beat Villa without conceding one of our most impressive performances this season. It will be a much different story at Villa Park, but I do see Forest grabbing a goal. Villa play some very effective attacking football. I mean, they've scored 52 goals this season, and with Forest conceding 44, I am certain they'll score here. The only silver lining for Forest is the mounting injuries for Villa, with quite a few important players set to miss out. Despite that though, I do think it should be another win for Villa. Forest will look to make it tough for the Villains. If you compare injury lists, Forest have actually been nice for once in the injury department, which is lovely. Forest will make it tough for the Villains. We'll set up to frustrate Emery's side, much like we did a Newcastle away, I think. But I do ultimately see the 3 points staying in Birmingham. I'd love to see us go and attack their high line, because that's how we did them at the City ground, but I think they're otherwise up to that tactic by now. So I just want to see us go and give it a good game. But I think Villa will beat us, to be fair, and I don't think that's an outrageous statement to say. And then we move on to Manchester United versus Fulham. Manchester United host Fulham at Old Trafford as they look to maintain their top 4 push and creep into a European spot come end of the season. The Cottagers aren't pushing for Europe themselves, instead they find themselves occupying the mid-table spots. But you never know, they could sneak into Europe if they're still in a cup competition which has that available. I don't think they are, so I'll just shut up on that front. Manchester United come off the back of a win against Luton and Bedfordshire, and will be hoping that they can continue their run of winning ways as their form stretches to 4 wins and a draw from their last 5. Fulham on the other hand come off the back of a loss against Villa at Craven Cottage. This takes their form to 1 win and 2 draws from their last 5. This has seen Fulham's form take a slump recently, but they do look pretty cemented in the middle of the table to be fair, so I don't think they're at risk of getting relegated, but I still feel that they need points to make sure. But I think they're one of the sides that aren't really at risk of being pulled into a relegation scrap. I wouldn't have thought anyway, but hey, you never know. You never know. I'm going to say 2-0 to United. Fulham haven't beat Manchester United since 2009, and I cannot see that changing here. Manchester United have some good form at the moment and look to put their January form all behind them and have begun climbing the table once again, winning their last 4 successive matches. Ten Hag might be cooking. Højlund is in some good goal-scoring form himself and has become a real driving force for United. And I'm sure he'll score here too. Fulham have been decently defensive this season and normally keep games tight, only conceding 41 goals so far this season, which isn't great, but it's better than quite a few teams in the league, so we'll let them have it. Manchester United look to have sorted out their goal-scoring issues and are making a big push for a top 4 spot, and are currently one of the most informed sides in that race, and in the league to be honest, so they could squeak in once again. Other than that though, I can't really see Fulham troubling United too much. They don't really have a prolific striker at their disposal. That's definitely something they should focus in the summer, I reckon. But yeah, I don't really think they've got the players to trouble United that much, to be honest. Man United do have quite a few injuries, but their team honestly looks better despite that. Like, some of the players injured would be shocking if they played, so it's probably for the best they're on the injury table. I see the 3 points staying in Manchester. And then move on to Brighton versus Everton. Brighton hosts Everton at the MX as the Seagulls look to start a winning run and continue pushing for a European spot. Everton are coming off the back of a draw against Crystal Palace, which saw them climb out of the relegation zone, based purely on goal difference though. The Toffees are still in desperate need of points to ensure that they don't fall into the relegation once again, especially with another points deduction possibly looming over their head. Brighton are coming off the back of an emphatic win against Sheffield United, which takes their form to 2 wins and a draw in their past 5. Their form has been fairly inconsistent this season and are without top scorer João Pedro through injury, but do have Ferguson at their disposal, who has already matched his tally from last season. He's not really firing in like he was towards the end of last season though, so maybe he should be given a run of games. Who knows? Both teams are in need of points and both teams have very different aspirations. I'm going to say 2-1 to Brighton. I see the 3 points staying on the south coast. As I mentioned, Brighton have been very inconsistent this season, so you never really know what Brighton side you're going to get. Everton will be battling hard to grab any points that they can in their bid for Premier League survival. Dyche knows how to set up a team to frustrate, and I'm sure he'll do that here as well. It's something he does very, very well. Everton love to make a game tough for their opponents, no matter their size or stature of the club. They will look to make it tough for them. And Brighton, being in a very inconsistent period at the moment, could struggle against the Toffees, which is why I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Brighton have been quite prolific in front of net this season, scoring 5 in their last outing, as well as 4 the week prior, which takes their tally to 48 goals so far this season, which is some very impressive goal-scoring form. Everton have not been as prolific though, only scoring 27 goals so far this season, but they've also conceded 7 less than their opponents. So, silver linings. Everton will make it tough for the Seagulls, but I do ultimately see Brighton giving all 3 points in Sussex. And then we move on to Bournemouth versus Manchester City. The Cherries host Manchester City at Dean Court as they look to turn around their slumping form and start getting some points on the board once again. Man City were in hot pursuit of Liverpool until they drew to Chelsea. Again, it was a pretty limp display from the citizens, which I did not expect, but luckily I didn't triple captain Haaland, so silver linings once again. They rectified things as they squeezed past Brentford, but it does leave them 4 points adrift of Liverpool, but do find themselves a point ahead of Arsenal. Bournemouth are coming back with a draw against Newcastle United, which sees their form stretch to 3 draws from the past 5. It's been a slump from what they've been experiencing earlier in the season, so I do reckon they'll be fine from relegation because of those points they gained prior, but again, you never know. City are coming off the back of a win against Brentford, which was a very tight game to be fair, as the Bees played some very defensive football. And with their draw over Chelsea, it takes their form to 4 wins and a draw from their last 5, which is fairly solid form, you can't lie. I'm going to say 2-0 to City. I see the 3 points being taken back up north. Despite that drab performance against Chelsea, Manchester City are a powerful side who are entrenched in a title fight and are only set to miss 2 players, Grealish and Gvardiol, who aren't exactly important players at the moment, so not much is lost. Bournemouth are suffering from quite a few injuries themselves though, with Billing still suspended as well. The last time these two sides faced each other, City put 6 past the Cherries, and while I can't see it being as dominant of a display as it was there, I do still see City claiming those 3 points. And as far as I can tell, Bournemouth have never beaten City in their history, and unfortunately for the Cherries, I do not see that changing here. And to just pile on some further misery onto the Bournemouth bonfire, they've conceded the most goals of any team outside of the relegation zone, which is not good when you're facing a side that has scored the second most goals this season, and a Haaland with something to prove. With Bournemouth going through the slumping form that they are, I can't see them causing much issues for the citizens, so I think it should be a fairly assured win for Manchester City, but I don't see it being a blowout like it was last time around. But it honestly could be more, let's be real. And then we move on to our last Saturday fixture, which is Arsenal versus Newcastle. Arsenal host Newcastle at the Emirates in what could be a little grudge match after some of the scandals surrounding the reverse fixture at St James's Park earlier in the season. Newcastle look coming back of a draw, which they grasped last minute against Bournemouth. This does take the Magpies' form to 2 wins and 2 draws from their last 5, with their drop in form making their fight for a top 6 spot a lot harder, but they are still in it. Arsenal have been enjoying a much better run of things though, as they're coming back with a dominant win against Burnley. Now, they weren't as fortunate in Europe, falling 1-0 to Porto in Portugal, but I don't really see that playing into their league form at all. The win over Burnley takes Arsenal's form to 5 wins in 5 and keeps them well in the title race. Just a point behind City and 5 behind Liverpool, which is ground you can make up. I'm going to say 3-2 to Arsenal. I'm backing the Gunners to keep all 3 points in the capital. Arsenal is in very good form at the moment, playing some good football and generally just being quite a dominant force. They've scored 11 goals in their last 2 matches and conceded none, which is a very good record. Newcastle aren't helped by the large amount of injuries they've been suffering from this season as their injury list continues to grow. However, despite that, I do see them able to cause some issues for Arsenal despite those injuries. Eddie Howe can set up Newcastle to be a tough and frustrating side to break down, and I can imagine we'll see that happen here. As I mentioned earlier, the reverse fixture was pretty controversial, with only a golden goal being what separated the two sides, and some very dodgy refereeing calls. Arsenal will be looking to avenge this result, and I can see them doing that here. I do see Arsenal coming all 3 points in what will be a very tough match. Hopefully it's a high scoring affair, and yeah, I'm ready for the Twitter meltdown from either the Geordies or the Gunners, because it's going to be good. And then we move on to the Sunday fixture of Wolves versus Sheffield United. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Sheffield United at the Molineux as they look to build on their previous result and start a run of winning ways. Sheffield United have been enduring a great time of things this season, as they currently find themselves rock bottom of the league, 7 points from safety. This is after the Blades come back of another loss, this time to Brighton. This takes their form to 1 win and a draw from their last 5. Now, I know I say it often, but that's not great form for a side that is looking to escape the relegation zone. Wolves have been enjoying much better form than their opponents though, as they're coming from the back of a win against Spurs in the capital. This takes their form to 2 wins and a draw from their past 5, as they further cement themselves in the middle of the table. And they're also in the middle of the UK, which is poetic really. I'm going to say 2-0 to Wolves. I see the 3 points remaining in the West Midlands. Wolves play some solid football under O'Neill, and we'll see the Blades as an opportunity to start stringing together victories and get a winning run going. Wolves have been fairly prolific in front of net this season, scoring 39 goals, and against the leaky defence of Sheffield United, that tally could rise quite dramatically. Not to pile more misery on the suffering Blades fans at the moment, but they're also suffering quite a few injuries, as well as one suspension. Now, I've given Wilder credit before on making Sheffield United a better defensive outfit, but the amount they've conceded recently would beg to differ. There have been improvements, but not a lot, or not enough. I see Wolves keeping the 3 points in the West Midlands, and further cementing themselves as a side in the middle of the table. But you know, this could be one of those shock Sheffield United wins that we don't see coming. For some reason, there's a slight part of me that thinks this will happen, but realistically, Wolves are going to win it. So I don't know why I'm thinking this, but you know, games aren't won on paper, man. anything could happen. And finally, the Monday fixture and West Ham versus Brentford. We end this game week with a cross-London clash as West Ham host Brentford. Both London outfits have not been enjoying a great run of form recently, as they've both seen themselves slide down the league in recent weeks. Brentford are coming off the back of losses to Manchester City and Liverpool, which takes their form to 1 win from the last 5 matches. West Ham haven't been enjoying much better form though, as they fell to Nottingham Forest in the East Midlands. Hold that. Honestly man, the one game I'm not there for because I'm on holiday, and we win. Maybe it's a sign. This takes their form to 2 draws from their last 5. It's been a tough time for the 2 London outfits, and both sides will be hoping they can make a return to winning ways in order to climb up the table for different reasons. West Ham need to finish as high as possible in order to aim for European football next season if they don't automatically get it through their current European campaign, whilst Brentford are looking to avoid slimming closer to the relegation zone. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I see the points being shared in East London. Neither side are looking great at the moment. West Ham are just in some dismal form at the moment, and the pressure is really mounting on Moyes, and it's easy to see why. 3 straight losses, including that thrashing by Arsenal, it's not what you really want to see. Now, I've heard rumours on Twitter and the like from West Ham based accounts that West Ham are running down Moyes' contract so it costs less to shift him off, which is fair enough, but if results don't pick up, it might be disastrous for your seasons, lads. Just, I don't know. Who'd they even bring to replace him though? There's not any good candidates available, I feel. Steve Cooper, maybe? Hammers will also without Phillips as he saw red against Forest after a silly challenge. Brentford are also without quite a few players themselves, but that's purely down to injuries. The Bees are clearly suffering without those absentees, and it's going to be a very tough clash for both sides, but especially for Brentford, who don't really have much wiggle room in terms of substitutions and a starting lineup. He's not got much to choose from, so it's a fairly standard team I expect we'll see from Brentford. It's going to be a tough East versus West London clash, and I can't see either side getting something over the other. I see the points being shared in East London, and, long may Brentford's terrible form continue. I have been a quite ill O2GT, and those have been my Game Week 26 Premier League predictions. If you have any of your own predictions, please leave them down in the comments. I do enjoy reading what people are cooking up. Hopefully my tonsillitis wasn't too distracting for this video. If it was, I do apologise, but hopefully next week it should all be cleared up. Fingers crossed anyway. This has been my magic elixir. You've probably seen me sipping it throughout the video. It just keeps the throat nice and soothed, so if you're suffering from tonsillitis, I do recommend these flavoured milks from Tesco. They are very good. Or from any supermarket really. I've just got a Tesco close by, that's all. But yeah, hope you guys have a brilliant rest of your day. I shall see you guys in the next video. Peace.